Afternoon, everyone. I wanted to make a little video about the TTS Season 14 cuts, specifically the convocation rosters, but we'll talk a little bit about the tournament in general. So, the lists are going to be locked. You can come, the long change is up. The lists are locked. They're out there for everyone to see. There's 35 people. There's going to be three playing games with the lowest seeded people, so I don't have to play in. Um, so that it equals a clean 32, and then we'll have a single elimination 5 round bracket from there. Um, from a meta perspective, they're all coded lists where everything's in here. We'll talk really high level about what we're seeing, and then we'll go into the specific lists. Lots of webs, lots of Hellfire, not shocking. A good bit of Cabal and X Force again. I think before, if you just looked at who won the different leagues and who was actually getting into cuts, these are the rosters they were playing. I mean, most people didn't stray too far from what they played in cuts. I know Leaf is playing Shield, where he wasn't playing that in cuts or in the league. And Kyle, who won last time, played Black Order the whole way through and is now playing Kingpin. Those are like two notable ones. If other people changed, I don't know. People like to look at this and then kind of make a big, oh, look at how the meta is type comments. And to that I say, like, this isn't, this is a pretty good spread. Like nothing is too shocking about wasn't seen, right? Okay, maybe Inhumans might be the only one that's not in here that I might legitimately say, like, oh wow, I'm surprised that's not here. Like somebody didn't make it with Inhumans or wanted to play them in the finals. But like A Force, Dormammu, Asgard, yeah, Sentinels, Weapon X. These aren't popular affiliations, like super popular ones. There are some of the more least popular ones, and so of course you're going to get ones that are popular in here. I mean, Convocation is one probably from a popularity standpoint. Convocation is the most represented one um, versus how popular it is. The point being is there's so many affiliations. There's only 35 people. Like on an average basis, you'd get two of everybody plus a couple of singles. You couldn't even fit two of every affiliation in this. And so, like the fact that you get eight, there's 17 affiliations represented. Most of them 1 to 3, and then you have some outliers like Webs and Hellfire are the really two standout ones. Even though Hellfire's only one more than the Cabal side and X Force, it's still on the high side. I mean, it's just they're a popular faction. I mean, they're very good. They've been good for a long time. Both of them. They're two of the top scenario ones. And I mean, Hellfire's no excuse because no one really likes Hellfire as far as like theme wise. But Webs are a very popular franchise, and people like to tell you that they do it because they love Webs, not because they're strong. And and they're very represented. There's enough people out there, and they're strong enough. And like to an extent, the way they play like a good solid scenario game, I never want to call them easy to play. I don't feel like Webs are necessarily easy is not the word, but I think there is some, if you're solid with them, like you're not taking as many risks versus like mediocre mid-level players, because it's a lot of diceless stuff. You don't have to have that many rolls go your way. It's not like playing full attrition and being like, oh, my dice all missed. Um, I think the biggest maybe shock, if I had to say, would be Wakanda being so low. Wakanda being low, I guess really I could say Avengers and X-Men are shockingly low, but that's just because they're very popular. Maybe even Guardians of the Galaxy. It's kind of crazy how much they've fallen out of like popularity since Cosmic Ghost Rider got nerfed. We didn't have lock lists before. This is the great part about lock lists, and it was voted on by us to have lock lists. Is you do get to see some data. It's not guessing every week and stuff like that. I will note that if an errata drops between now and the finals, whoever's left will redo their list. That's the only thing that will do it. New model releases won't. So, for example, there is somebody, Leaf has Namor in his list, and he can't use them until he's in the mod. So, but he had to put him in his list now, or else he couldn't change when Namor came out. So that's something to note. But yeah, I think Mini Stravaganza is around like the week of top 4. And if there is a big announcement, if there is a crisis change, if there is TTCs change, character changes, we will be redoing our list, which is kind of like the vote on that was actually very close, to do full lock list or that. I I picked full locked. We don't know for sure, but if the only thing left is top four, which is 3 games, 2 top 4 games, and then a finals, I'd rather just keep it on the old stuff because the whole season was played on the old stuff, all the way up until top four. You're basically playing 3 games in 2 week span on the new stuff. Like, just deal on the old stuff. Just finish it off. It's gonna be really weird if like the new crisis and stuff changes everything, and then the finals is played on by like, let's just, for example, let's just say it's a Hellfire and Webs player in the finals, and the meta just completely changes because of it, and they have to change their roster and everything, and all of a sudden, it doesn't feel like a finals. It feels like a exhibition game type thing. So it is what it is. We're not going to worry if that comes. We'll just deal with it. But I'm here to talk more about the convocation list. So there's 3 convocation lists. Me, Jumanji, I don't want to say Subuyo, and his name's Mario. He's the Modoc guy. And I color coded everything that was the same about all 3. So there are similarities between us. Like, me and Joe have all but one character difference, and I did try to put it in order that kind of made sense to talk about. Again, I'm not going to go too. I'm not here to. I pretty much put my strategies and a lot of my thoughts out there. I'm not here to call out what they're doing per se, but I don't think it's much different than what I'm doing. So, suck it, guys. You're part of my video. So we're all picking Strange, Voodoo, Wong, Ultron, Rhino. I don't think that's shocking to anybody. We have talked about Ultron being one of the best splashes for convocations. It's a very strong model. There's 12 Ultrons in this tournament. Rhino, again, very good. The best scenario probably guy. And with Bump, it's stuff he's really cool to play in convocations. Very fun. You get some really nice combos of Rhino and Voodoo being affiliated as steals is a very strong combo. Obviously, others have like Cat, Spider-Woman, whatever. But I do think there's something about having Voodoo there with Bump and everything that really turns up the game of scenario. And I do believe that, like, between us 3, you will see much more scenario gameplay than maybe you saw previously with like convocation rosters. I mean, even myself, like, I've kind of pushed that way a little bit. You know, you can see with one of my changes in secures, but also the fact that I got Rhino back, I feel like I can play that game a bit more. So past that, you know, if you want to look across, there's Magic. So basically, we all take an affiliated 3. They take 2 of them, I take 1 of them. So that's like the first change. So I just put Taskmaster up here, but they both have Mordo as well. So we all have affiliated 3. Makes sense to have at least one of them to be able to make certain teams. You can't do the MODOK team or the Ultron MODOK team at 19 without an affiliated 3. You'll notice only one that says MODOK. We all took an out of affiliation 3 as well, and I took Baron, Zemo, so did Joe, and then Mario has Lizard. I think those are the 2 staple ones for convocation that you see a lot. I know Johnny will preach Proxima Midnight, and Tarfu, a guy who talks to me, is testing Proxima. She's like the middle ground of Lizard and Zemo in a way. Like, she's fast like Zemo, she hits decently, but she's tanky like Lizard without being Lizard. You know, they're just a little more mobile than he is. So they're just different beasts. I do like Lizard a lot. I think what it comes down for me is when I will use them. For example, like, Lizard to me is a very nice down the middle. I know he's light in other places too, but one example to me is like down the middle Gamma type things on 18 with like hammers or Montesi, because I like having another throw for Ultron to reset his grunts and just being an annoying tanky guy. I'm probably okay with Zemo there too. Like, Zemo and him, it's whatever. Like, I like killing more in the bubble rerolls in the long move. So we all take an Al affiliation 3. There are some uses for them. There's some things you can do at 17 and other point values, even 19s in ways, if you don't want to run your affiliated 3. So again, I think he was always going to be there. We'll come back to the Crimson Dynamo line. Bullseye versus Toad. Even Joe had Toad before because Jim had Toad, and I was always a proponent of Bullseye in my opinion. I don't like there's the 17 that we all talk about, which is like Strange, Wong, Voodoo, Rhino, 2. It can be Toad, it could be Bullseye. I don't think it's that vastly different to have one versus the other, but I do believe that I personally, if you think about it, I knew there were going to be a lot of webs in this event. I would rather have Bullseye to pling damage and do 2 auto damage than I would Toad. So, like, Bullseye double tap, like, it doesn't feel like a wasted activation because he does damage like a 3. And so being able to ping webs for 2 damage no matter what they do is big when they throw a bunch of models with 5 health pools. And he can just spike and do more. Like, 2 is the floor that he does, which is great. And so if you're just going to run around with an extract and stuff, at least you can do some damage. So I prefer the Bullseye pick, personally. And then Toad's fine. Like, Toad, no one's going to complain about Toad being the other 2. And then I think, so let's talk about the Crimson Dynamo line. So we were all MODOK players. And I don't know if Joe switched because of me or because of our conversations. And I talked to all of these guys. So it's not shocking, like, that our lists are similar because, we all play similar. We all talk a lot about it. So I switched to Dynamo, the boring pick, because I made a video about me dropping MODOK. I think MODOK 19 Demons is very good. And it could potentially be better than Dynamo, even though it's potentially. And it's the sacrifice thing, the grunts is cool. I'm not going to deny that. I do think it's, as people get better against it, I think it feels less good a little bit, and it kind of forces things I don't like a little bit. The point being is, when you start getting the things like, okay, so the way I take my extracts, it's 19 or 20. So if I'm playing on things I don't like Intrusions or Fisk or Meteors, right? Those 3 are big examples right away. If I'm playing those 3, or Gamma, which I don't have, which I don't care. I'm fine on Gamma, but I dropped it. Like those 3, Meteors, Fisk, Intrusions are 3 big ones. I'm always playing 19 or 20, and in fact, Intrusions is 19, so I'm always can pick 19. And I just think that while maybe Demons and Gamma, the MODOK thing is slightly better, if I'm like on Demons, Intrusions, Meteors, and Fisk, I think Dynamo's better. He's just better up there. He has, the bumps. Okay, I think MODOK, like, because he's so reliant on, like, being near somebody, to, like, being near the grunts and all this other shit that can happen in his short throw, blah, blah, blah. I just think Dynamo just acts better on those maps. Like MODOK does a decent bit of damage, but I think Dynamo's just more better. I just think he's better at it. I think you can do beams are always going to be good. He's the king of them. It's a boring answer, whatever. But I think in those situations, I was like, man, I don't love taking MODOK on Intrusions. I don't love taking MODOK on Meteors. Dynamo has the place, which is really nice on top of, he's a small move, it's whatever. He's a bit tankier when you don't have to, he gets a lot of power and, does something with it. And I don't know, MODOK's fine. I just think for those instances, Dynamo's better and he covers more bases for me. That's it. That's really it. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think there's other teams you can play at 19 in that kind of realm of stuff. But I just chose to play Dynamo in this one. I think MODOK was very specific to one thing, and I almost took something that wasn't Dynamo. But then I was like, man, if I play some of these annoying things, I'd just rather have Dynamo in it. And so the last big thing, so if you look at it from a theme perspective or a job perspective, okay, I have Magic and so does Joe, and they have Mario has Taskmaster. I think it's fine, or they have Mordo if you want to count Mordo too. So they have more options at 3. I have to play Magic. The reason I kind of chose Magic as my 3 is, as you can see in the number of people, there's a lot of fucking webs here. And so I think there are some really cool, I don't want to say anti-webs, but there are some cool anti-webs teams, or teams that may be good versus webs. So for example, if, the 17 we talked about actually doesn't have Magic in it, though you can bring a 17 with Magic if you want. But let's just take, for example, 19, right? So if I'm playing Rhino and Voodoo at 19, this is where some of the debate came in. If I'm playing Rhino and Voodoo at 19 and Strange because it's webs, that's 13 points. You have 6 points left. Okay, you can take two things. You can take a 4 and a 2, or you can take 2 3s. Well, 4 and a 2 is only Dynamo and Wong, right? And so that's why the Dynamo position was so heavily debated, and even Juggernaut could be something like, what's a good anti-webs 4? Is it Ancient one? Is it, do you want to take a Scenario 4 as in like Nick Fury or something like that? I think they're all reasonable, but I didn't want to like hinge some of my play on models I don't play a ton. Like, I don't play a ton of Dynamo recently, but he's not that hard to play. I have played him before. So I said to myself, well, like, if I'm going to be playing webs, like, let's just say a 4 threat. Let's say Logan was an example. He was in there. Let's say Logan and Wong. Like, Magic and Zemo is probably just more damage. Like, everybody does damage. There's no filler bullshit character. Like, you have Mystic Stick Pierce, Rhino, who's super mobile with, terrain throws. You have Voodoo with his possess, and then you have Zemo, who's super fast. And sure, he attacks physical, which is their better thing. But if you're going after, a lot of webs run, they have Gwen, right? They all have Gwen. They all have Gwen. They all have who's the other fucking webs 3 that people Cat. And okay, Zemo rerolls don't do anything to Cat, but no one gets rerolls versus Cat. So like, I guess what the point is, yes, Miles and Super SSM have extra rerolls versus physical, but when you're attacking like Gwen, like Zemo's just as good as Quinn, Gwen, and Toad as everyone else. So if you want to deal with Miles, you have 3 other Mystic users to deal with him, and you can deal with, the others with Zemo. So I mean, the fact that everybody attacks and everybody's fast, Magic has a place. Zemo has charge. Voodoo's the slowest one, but he's still a Mystic attacker with a steal. Rhino stampedes. You have Scalpel. Like, you're just very fast and very aggressive. So I think that team could be pretty good depending on the scenario. So that's where I said, okay, I don't need a 4 that's not Dynamo, because if I'm playing, sure, if I'm playing Intrusions, I can play more of a Dynamo-focused map. I also think you could do things like, if you really want to be like weird, you could play Magic instead of Voodoo, and then you could put Juggernaut in if you wanted. You could run Strange, Wong, Magic, Juggernaut, Rhino, for example. I don't know if you'd ever run that. But it also gives you an option, potentially, if you run 20 against webs, you could run Ultron instead of Magic Zemo. You could run Ultron, Juggernaut, and Wong, I guess. When are we gonna run? So I think one thing also note too is they have Mordo in there, who's probably better at the 15, but you can avoid a lot of 15s with this roster because you don't take 15s, you don't take Gamma yourself. There's not a ton of researcher out there, so while I think Mordo is better at a 15, in fact, he probably would work really well. I think I'd rather just have Magic in this case and live or die by her. Like, it's not a big deal. I took Juggernaut just because I love Juggernaut, and I couldn't decide what to put there. I had Taskmaster, I had Jugs, I had like another 4, and I was like, you know what? There's a couple teams that I think are really spicy with Jugs. Like, I think Jugs are really going Fisk, which is not good for some of us. I think there's some really interesting teams out there. Maybe some spicy ones that involve Jugs on like D maps, like I think on like a D20. So when I play my 20. So here's the other thing too. Like Joe plays a lot more 6 wide than I do at different point values, and that's another reason having a second affiliated 3 is really good, because you can run wider at like 19 and I think even 18 you need 2 of them, right? Because you have Strange, or do you not take Strange in that case? I guess you don't. You could take Strange, 3, 3, 2 is 13. You could take Bullseye and Zemo, or you could not take Strange and you could upgrade one of them to Rhino, and you could take Strangeless 18 with Rhino, Mordo, Magic, Wong. That's 12, and then you could take Rhino and Bullseye. Like, that's a pretty good 18 at 6 wide. I don't personally run like six wide shit like that. So they do more so, and so I didn't feel the need for a second three. The only time I'd really want a second affiliated three is there's some 19s where I'd probably want to run Task and Magic on like intrusions, but I kind of was just like, with the addition of Dynamo, I'm not as worried about it so much. Like I'll just play Dynamo and like Ultron or something. Like it's fine. Um, yeah, I'm not really. It felt bad with Mordo more so. Like at least Magic is up there in the shit doing her thing. I think Mordo and Wong just felt like I didn't have enough pressure at night intrusion. So one guy chilling back is fine. Two of them was kind of like no thanks. I don't know. There's some cool team with Jugger. So the 20 I run. So I think Joe and maybe Mario run a lot more 6 wide 20, whereas where I would take Strange, Voodoo, Wong, Rhino, Ultron, they would more so run, instead of Ultron, they would run like Zemo, Bullseye, which is fine. That's good. I mean, probably pretty good. Zemo Mordo sounds better than, or Zemo Bullseye sounds a lot better than Toad. It can't be Zemo. It has to be. It has to be Mordo, Bullseye. Lame. Whatever. Whereas for like if I got Scrolls 20 D shaped, right? I'd probably take like Jugs, Rhino, Strange, Voodoo, Wong or something. I don't know. I also have the option to go 6 wide at that point value too, because you only need one affiliate 3. It's really the 19s and 18s I don't have the option to go 6 wide. Can I do it at that point value? No, I only have 4 affiliated models. And what do they add up to? 5, 14. I can do it at 19. Yeah, I can do it at 19. I can go 6 wide 19. I just can't do 6 wide 18. Fuck it. That's not important enough. Okay, so that's mine. I mean, do I think those differences are going to be the make or break? Probably not. I think we all have like the key stuff we need, and it's going to be about play and stuff like that. Cards, we take 8 of the same cards. Nothing crazy there. Whether it's the same restricted, you have the bar, Ironbound book, fallback, age, robbery, eyes, things people take. Okay, I have Do You Know Who I Am because I have Juggernaut. I think that makes sense. They both have mission objective. I think that card's for pussies. I don't like that card. Fuck that card. I hate taking it, so I don't mind not having it in my 5. I know why people take it. I respect it. I don't like it. That's probably my best way to put it. Okay, he has Journey for Magic. I talked about why I don't like Journey. I just don't like associating a card with a 3 threat. And it's a great card, but it's not part of my 10. It's not going to make my team very much. Okay, Mario has Bane. I have Planes. I think they're both good. Bane was the last thing I dropped. I think it's a good card. I probably hold it way too long. My deciding factor was, again, webs. Like, Bane is not bad against webs, but like if I'm going to be taking things like Magic, Strange, Voodoo against webs, potentially, like having Planes in there just feels like when I want something to die with Magic or something, just feels better to me. So I took it. Again, I don't think any of the cards they took or didn't take are make or break. Obviously, Do You Know Who I Am is very specific to Juggernaut. Bane, it's one of those cards I talked about in the Discord where I'm like, I'm not missing having it. You know what I mean? Like, can I think of situations where Bane was really good and where like I could use it? Of course. Do I think I'm going to sit back and be like, oh my god, I wish I took Bane here? There's always going to be opportunity. It's kind of, Warpath is not a good example, but Warpath is one of those cards where like I think it's a good card, and I can think of some very good scenarios where Warpath can be very good. But like, I don't take it because I don't feel like I'm missing out. Like, it's any card. There's a lot of cards where you're like, oh my god, this could be so good. And you can defend it. And I think Bane is in that realm of like that. People are talking about Thanos and rooting him and stuff. Okay, I get it. That is good. There are 7 Thanoses. Anyway, so the interesting part is on Crisis, while we only each have one of the same, there's only 4 total. So like, we all take demons. Me and Joe take Infinity. Me and Mario take Scoundrels. And then Mario and Joe take Portals. I take these because... So, like... people have said, I was talking to Joe, he's like, okay, Hellfire and Webs, which are very popular, really like Scoundrels. I think maybe Hellfire don't love Infinity. I took Infinity because I was tired of playing Gamma, and this one felt the most like okay to play on. He took Spider Portals. I mean, they're pretty good for Hellfire because like it's annoying for them as a pay to flip, and maybe it's pretty good, decent for Spiders. I don't know, or maybe versus other attrition teams. So maybe Joe's scenarios play the meta the most. But Scout and even Senators, you could say the same thing. I mean, we were talking about being Senators good for Webs. Here's my opinion. I think Scoundrels and Senators are two of the scenarios that I am personally, as a person, good on and enjoy. And like, I don't know. I win a lot on Scoundrels. I don't play a ton. I mean, I beat Hellfire on it. I've beaten other Webs on it before. Like, if I go into this and lose a round of Scoundrels playing against Webs, I will just accept it. Like, I'd rather lose on scenarios that I like and play, and with like jugs. Like, this is the kind of thing, right? We're going into the finals. Sure, there's some meta calls to make, but I don't want to like try to make this soul read on the meta and everything and change what I'm doing because of other people. And if I lose because I took a secure that I like and I think I'm good on and somebody played me on it, great. I'd rather do that than take like Mutant Madmen and fucking lose on pay to flips, right? Because I thought it would be better versus the teams that I was going against. So there's a little bit of that in me too, where I'm just like, okay, like there's got to be a line where I'm just doing what I think is best for me. And if you get punked on it, you get punked on it. We all take scrolls. Two of us take virus. They take hammers. I'm not a big hammer guy. I like it when we don't have priority. Or when we have priority. I think it's fine when we don't. I don't love 18 either. So like, part of this whole, the whole reason I have, I'm not 18 isn't my favorite point value, and I guess if you have the ability to run 6 wide at 18, maybe you're more enjoyable about hammers. I don't like taking hammers. It's just too much when like we have two good scenario people for hammers because Rhino makes you drop all of them and Voodoo makes you drop all of them. But the swings of like they steal all the hammers and then tear you apart is just not something I'm interested in this event. So I know Mario doesn't like Virus. For whatever reason, he doesn't like playing on it, and Joe was scared of Senators because of Webs, which is fair. So again, I think Joe's might be the most meta call for Crisis, and maybe Mario and I are a little bit more just general comfort, but I don't think they're bad picks either. Like I said, there's not a ton of differences. I think the players play differently. Like, I think I'm much more aggressive than Joe and Mario are as a player. Like, I'm very willing to play like 5 wide. I won't play 4. I basically play like 90. Although this is like 15 and maybe 13, 16. I basically always play like 5 wide. While they're more willing to go wider. I don't really love it. I think the teams are kind of weak sometimes, but I'm sure they do work. It depends on the meta and what you're against. But yeah, we're both similar yet different, and I'm curious to see how the games play out. I think they'll play out potentially very different depending on who, not because of the list, but because of the people behind them. And I'm curious to see how the convocation does. I'm rooting for us as best we can for the Wizards. We are 3. We're one of the more popular. We're 3 versus 2s. So it's good that we have representation and strong representation, and we'll see how it goes. Games won't start for like 2 weeks, so that's kind of boring. But the play-ins have to happen, and we're not in the play-ins. Thanks for listening.